also provided that tax expenditures should be reported in the annual budget, indicating expenditures given for the year and expenditures for the future, for the next year, coming year. The idea of this was to make tax expenditures transparent and make sure that things were done according to law. Because what was observed was that were things that were being done as practice, and let me repeat, as practice, but not law. And we had become used to them. So when there was a change, then it became a problem. But these things were brought in to ensure that there was a certain level of equity, there was a certain level of certainty, and there was a certain level of openness about exemptions, as we like to call it, but tax expenditures, as I like to call it. And so, with this being done, we then went to the next steps of enforcing. And for those who are registered with GIPC, I know that there were a few unpleasant things that had to be done, because we're practicing more than doing what the law said. So for strategic investors, the issue was that there was a discretion, there was an approval, but we never went to Parliament to get the things approved under 1742 of the Constitution. In the Constitution, 1742 says that when an enactment gives a discretion to a person to waive or vary taxes, it must be done with the prior approval of Parliament, and that means there must be a resolution of Parliament that backs it. So we're giving incentives to strategic investors. Unfortunately, we're not doing some of this. So the issue was, okay, going forward, I mean, you won't go back and take some of these things off, but going forward, we needed to implement what the law said. Section 26(2) of the Act, the minister, you could ask for some additional, what's the word for it? Additional exemption incentives when it came to machinery and other things. It was import duty incentives. Practice, we expanded it to cover VAT and other things. And if, I'm sure we have a few lawyers here, there's a saying in law that when it comes to taxation, it's strict interpretation of law. It's what the law says that you do. If it's not in the law and you go and do it, you are working outside the law and you're exposing yourself to danger. And so there are some of these things that we've been doing to gradually straightening up the system. It's not been a day, but as we do this straightening, some of us will get caught up in it. And the chamber was just talking about the availability of information. And so that education is gradually going on for us to sort some of these things out and bring them in the way that. There's an exemptions bill that is coming up. And that bill also seeks to streamline some of these things. Because you have exemptions provisions scattered in various legislation. Again, some of these things, when it comes to taxes, actually, even in those legislation, it should have been brought to the attention of the ministry. Sometimes it didn't happen. Some are years old. Sometimes we've read things that existed in other provisions, earlier provisions, that have been amended, and yet we still maintain them. And so the current structure that is going on is to bring the exemption regime or the tax expenditure in line with law, and make sure that we cut out the abuses. Tax expenditures exist across the whole world, and Ghana is no exception.